"You were never truly a Porter," my stepmom, Patricia, declared, her voice carrying across our family's lavish backyard during the annual reunion. She stood there in her designer sundress, wineglass in hand, looking down at me with the same contempt she'd mastered over the last 20 years. "Just a mistake your father made. My name is Olivia Porter, and at 35, I stood in the same garden where I'd spent countless childhood summers, now feeling like a stranger in my own family." The string lights twinkled overhead, casting shadows across the faces of relatives who seemed to relish this public humiliation. "Look," my younger half-sister, Madison, chimed in, pulling out her phone with dramatic flair. "We've been updating the family photos." She held up the screen, showing me our traditional family portrait from last Christmas. Only now my face had been meticulously erased, replaced with an artfully blurred background as if I'd never existed. "We're fixing all of them," my other half-sister, Emma, added, her smile dripping with false sympathy. "It's better this way, don't you think? More authentic." I stared at the altered photo, my hands gripping my own wineglass so tightly I thought it might shatter. 20 years of family portraits, holiday snapshots, and milestone celebrations, all being systematically erased. The irony wasn't lost on me. They were merely making the photos match what they'd been doing to me emotionally for years. My father stood off to the side, examining his expensive loafers with sudden interest. He hadn't spoken a word in my defense, just like he hadn't for the past 2 decades since marrying Patricia. The successful real estate developer, Thomas Porter, who could negotiate million-dollar deals without breaking a sweat, couldn't find the courage to stand up to his wife when it came to his own daughter. "I think that's enough." My Aunt Sarah finally intervened, but the damage was done. The other guests, a mix of extended family and my father's business associates, were already whispering among themselves, their eyes darting between me and Patricia like they were watching a particularly juicy tennis match. I took a slow sip of my wine, letting the cool liquid steady my nerves. "You know what's interesting, Patricia?" I said, keeping my voice level. "You've spent 20 years trying to erase me, but here I am, still standing. Maybe the real mistake isn't who you think it is." Patricia's perfectly Botoxed face twitched. "Is that a threat, Olivia?" "No," I replied, placing my half-empty glass on a nearby table. "Just an observation and soon, a fact." I turned and walked away, my heels clicking against the stone pathway that led to the front of the house. Behind me, I could hear Patricia already spinning my exit into another example of my difficult personality and inability to accept reality. What none of them knew was that 3 weeks ago, I'd submitted DNA samples to not one, but 3 different ancestry testing companies. The results were due any day now, and they would reveal far more than just my genetic heritage. They would uncover the truth about the Porter family, a truth that Patricia had been desperately trying to hide for 2 decades. As I got into my car, I caught a glimpse of my father watching from the window of his study. For a moment, our eyes met, and I saw something flicker across his face. Was it guilt? Fear? But then he turned away, just as he always had. I thought back to how it all began, the day Patricia entered our lives. I was 15 when my mother died from a sudden aneurysm. She'd been the heart of our family, a warm and vibrant woman who filled our home with laughter and love. Dad was devastated, lost in his grief, barely functioning beyond his work. Patricia appeared at one of Dad's real estate functions just 6 months after Mom's funeral. She was everything my mother wasn't, calculated, status-obsessed, and coldly ambitious. She also came with 2 daughters close to my age, Madison and Emma, who shared their mother's talent for subtle cruelty. The wedding happened quickly, almost frantically, as if Dad were trying to patch the hole in our lives with the first available solution. I still remember standing in my bridesmaid's dress, watching Patricia walk down the aisle, feeling like I was witnessing the beginning of my own exile. The changes started small at first. My mother's belongings disappeared one by one, replaced by Patricia's modern, minimalist taste. Family dinners became formal affairs where I was constantly corrected on my manners, my posture, my choices. My childhood bedroom was redesigned without my input, transformed into a space I barely recognize. But it was the emotional erosion that cut the deepest. Patricia had a way of making every accomplishment of mine seem somehow lacking, while Madison and Emma's achievements were celebrated extravagantly. When I got accepted to Columbia University with a partial scholarship, Patricia merely raised an eyebrow and said, "Well, I suppose that's better than community college." When Madison got into NYU 2 years later, they threw a party for 50 people. My phone buzzed, pulling me from my memories. It was an email notification from Ancestry DNA. "Your results are ready to view." I pulled over into a nearby park, my hands shaking slightly as I opened my laptop. The truth I had suspected for years was about to be confirmed or denied. The reason for Patricia's desperate attempts to push me out of the family, her obsession with erasing my presence, her constant reminders that I wasn't truly a Porter. It all came down to this. The site loaded, displaying a colorful chart of my genetic heritage, but that wasn't what I was looking for. I scrolled down to the DNA matches section, holding my breath as the names appeared. Thomas. Porter, no match. The words stared back at me, confirming what Patricia had known all along. My father wasn't my biological father, but there was more, something Patricia couldn't have known, something that would shake the Porter family to its core. Another name appeared in my close matches. James Porter, 25% DNA shared, uncle. My father's younger brother, the black sheep of the family who disappeared 20 years ago, shortly after my mother's death. The man Patricia had claimed moved to Australia, cutting off all contact with the family. The man who, according to these results, was my biological father. Suddenly, Patricia's desperate attempts to erase me made perfect sense. She hadn't just been trying to push out an unwanted stepdaughter. She'd been trying to hide evidence of a scandal that could destroy the perfect family image she'd worked so hard to create. My phone buzzed again, another email, this time from 23, and then another from Family Tree DNA. I had covered all my bases, ensuring there could be no doubt about the results. Each test told the same story. I wasn't Thomas Porter's daughter, but I was undeniably a Porter. As I sat there in my parked car, watching the sun set over the city, I thought about the family gathering I'd just left. Patricia's smug declaration that I wasn't truly a Porter had been half right, but not in a way she thought. The truth was far more explosive than anything she could have imagined. I pulled out my phone and dialed a number I'd been saving for this exact moment. After 3 rings, a familiar voice answered, "Olivia, is it time?" "Yes, Uncle James," I replied, my voice steady. "The results are in. Are you ready to come home?" The silence on the other end was heavy with 20 years of secrets and lies. "They'll try to stop us," he finally said. "Let them try," I answered, thinking of Patricia's face when she realized her perfect world was about to crumble. The truth has a way of coming out, doesn't it? As I ended the call, another text came through from Madison. "Hope you enjoyed the party, fake sister. Don't bother coming to any more family events. We've already taken you off the guest lists." I smiled, saving a screenshot of the message. Soon Madison would learn what it truly meant to be removed from the family. Patricia's carefully constructed house of cards was about to come crashing down, and I had front row seats to watch it happen. The sun had fully set now, casting long shadows across the park. In the distance, I could see the lights of the Porter family estate glowing like a beacon. They thought they were celebrating my final exile tonight, but they had no idea. This was just the beginning. I started my car, my mind already planning the next steps. Patricia had spent 20 years trying to erase me from the family photos, but she was about to learn a hard lesson. Some things can't be erased, and some secrets refuse to stay buried. The real question wasn't whether I was truly a Porter, it was whether the rest of them deserved to be. 2 days after the disastrous family reunion, I sat in a quiet cafe in downtown Boston, my hands wrapped around a cooling cup of coffee. The morning crowd had thinned out, leaving just a few scattered patrons tapping away on laptops or scrolling through their phones. None of them knew they were about to witness a reunion 20 years in the making. I recognized him the moment he walked in. Though his dark hair was now streaked with silver and lines creased the corners of his eyes, James Porter carried himself with the same easy confidence I remembered from my childhood. He scanned the cafe, and when our eyes met, a smile broke across his face, the same crooked grin I saw every morning in my mirror. "Olivia," he said softly, sliding into the seat across from me, "you look just like your mother." The words hit me harder than I expected. Everyone always said I looked like Sarah Porter, but hearing it from James, my biological father, gave it new meaning. "Why did you leave?" I asked, not bothering with small talk. 20 years of questions couldn't wait any longer. James's smile faded. He wrapped his hands around the coffee cup I'd ordered for him, gathering his thoughts. "It's a long story and not a pretty one." "I've got time," I replied, "and after what happened at the reunion, I think I deserve the truth." He nodded, taking a deep breath. "Your mother and we never meant for it to happen. Thomas was always the golden boy, the successful one. I was the family disappointment, the dreamer who couldn't settle down. But Sarah, she saw something in me that nobody else did." Did Thomas know?" "No," James said firmly. "Sarah never told him. We agreed it was better that way." She loved Thomas, truly loved him. What happened between us was brief, a moment of weakness during a rough patch in their marriage. When she found out she was pregnant, she was devastated. I tried to process this information, matching it against my childhood memories. "But you stayed around all those years. You were always there for birthday parties, holidays. How could I stay away?" His voice cracked slightly. "You were my daughter. Even if I couldn't claim you, I could be the fun uncle, be part of your life somehow. But then Sarah died, and everything changed." "Patricia," I said, the name tasting bitter on my tongue. James' expression darkened. "Patricia. She figured it out, or at least suspected. She started dating into old family records, asking questions about Sarah's past. I knew it was only a matter of time before she discovered the truth." "So you ran." "I left to protect you," he corrected. Patricia made it clear. If I stayed, she'd expose everything. The scandal would have destroyed your relationship with Thomas, tainted your mother's memory. You were already dealing with losing her. I couldn't let you lose everything else too. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed with a text from Madison. "Dad's furious about the DNA test. You've really done it now. Freak." I showed James the message. "Looks like the results have made it home." He reached across the table, squeezing my hand. "We knew this would happen. Are you ready for what comes next?" I thought about Patricia's smug face at the reunion. About 20 years of subtle cruelty and calculated exclusion. More than ready. "But there's something you should know. I've been doing some digging of my own." I pulled out my laptop, opening a folder of documents I've been collecting for months. Patricia's not as clever as she thinks. When she started erasing me from family photos, I started looking into her past. "Want to see what I found?" James leaned forward, his eyes widening as I showed him the evidence. Bank statements, property records, old newspaper clippings, pieces of a puzzle that painted a very different picture of Patricia than the society wife she pretended to be. "My God," he whispered. "Does Thomas know about any of this?" "Not yet," I replied. "But he will. Patricia's been playing a long game, James." "So have I." As if on cue, my phone rang. Thomas Porter's name flashing on the screen. James and I exchanged looks. The moment of truth had arrived. "Hello, Father," I answered, keeping my voice neutral. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" "Thomas demanded these DNA tests. Do you have any idea what kind of damage you could cause to this family?" "Funny, I thought I wasn't part of the family. Isn't that what your wife's been saying?" "Olivia, please." His voice softened slightly. "Come home. We can talk about this privately. Figure something out. Figure something out." I repeated, "Like how you figured things out when Patricia started erasing me from photos, or when she turned my childhood bedroom into a yoga studio. Or maybe like how you figured things out when she told everyone at my college graduation that I was adopted." "You're being dramatic." "No, I'm being honest. For the first time in 20 years, we're all going to be honest. I'm at the Liberty Cafe on Charles Street. James is here with me. Come join us. Ring Patricia if you'd like. It's time for a real family reunion." The silence on the other end was deafening. Finally, Thomas spoke, his voice tight with emotion. "James is there. My brother, James. Your brother, I confirmed. My biological father. But you already knew that, didn't you? Another long pause. I'll be there in 20 minutes, he said, then I'll nap. James let out a low whistle. You really think he knew? I think he suspected, I said, pulling up another file on my laptop. Look at this. 3 days after Mom died, he changed his will. Everything was left to me, with you named as my guardian if anything happened to him. Then 2 months after marrying Patricia, he changed it again. Suddenly, everything went to Madison and Emma, with me getting a token inheritance. James's face paled. He knew, and he paid me to leave. To protect the family name, I nodded. The great Thomas Porter couldn't have a scandal. It was easier to pay you off and pretend you'd abandoned us. Then Patricia came along with her perfect daughters and her perfect plan to reshape the family in her image. The bell above the cafe door chimed. Thomas Porter stood in the entrance, looking older and more tired than I'd ever seen him. His eyes locked onto James, and for a moment I saw something pass between the brothers. 20 years of unspoken words and buried truths. Shall we begin? I asked, gesturing to an empty chair. Thomas walked over slowly, like a man approaching his own execution. He sat down heavily, looking between James and me with a mixture of fear and resignation. Patricia? James asked. She's indisposed, Thomas replied. She locked herself in the study when she saw the DNA results. She's been making calls all morning. Damage control, I said. She's good at that. But she can't control this, Father. Not anymore. Thomas flinched at the word father. Olivia, please. Whatever you're planning. I'm not planning anything, I interrupted. I'm just telling the truth. Something this family hasn't done in a very long time. I opened my laptop, turning it so Thomas could see the screen. His face went ashen as he recognized the documents, evidence not just of his own deception, but of Patricia's careful manipulation of the family fortune over the years. Where did you get these? He whispered. I'm very good at my job, Father. Investment analysis isn't just about numbers. It's about patterns. And Patricia's patterns have been very interesting. James leaned forward. What exactly has your wife been up to, Thomas? I answered for him. Shell companies, hidden accounts, systematic transfers of family assets into her name or her daughters. She's been bleeding the Porter fortune dry for years, positioning herself to take everything. The only thing standing in her way was me, the original heir, the one person who might notice what she was doing. So she had to discredit me. I continued, make me the family outcast, convince everyone I was unstable, unreliable, not truly a Porter. And it almost worked, except she got sloppy. She started enjoying the cruelty too much, got too confident. The photo editing was just the final straw. Thomas buried his face in his hands. I never knew. About the money. I trusted her. You trusted her with everything except the truth about me. I said quietly. Why keep paying James to stay away if you trusted her so much? He looked up, his eyes red. I couldn't face it. Sarah was everything to me and finding out. I couldn't hate her, even after I figured it out. And I couldn't hate you, Olivia. You were my daughter in every way that mattered. But then Patricia came along and she made everything seem so simple. Simple? James spat. Is that what you call paying your own brother to disappear? I was trying to protect everyone. Thomas shot back. The scandal would have destroyed us all. Patricia promised she could fix everything, make it all go away. And instead, she nearly destroyed your daughter and stole your fortune. I finished. Some fix. The cafe had grown quieter, the remaining patrons pretending not to watch the family drama unfolding before them. My phone buzzed in my pocket, probably Madison or Emma, trying to figure out where their father had gone. What do you want? Thomas finally asked, his voice hollow. I closed my laptop slowly, considering my next words. I want the truth to come out, all of it. I want Patricia exposed for what she's done. I want my place in this family knowledge not erased. And I want both of my fathers to start acting like fathers. James reached for my hand, squeezing it gently. Thomas stared at our joined hands, something like recognition flickering across his face. Patricia will fight this, he warned. She'll deny everything, try to discredit you. Let her try, I said. I have copies of everything, the DNA tests, the financial records, the proof of her systematic theft. She can deny it all she wants, but the truth is already out there. The only question is whether you'll stand with me this time or let her destroy what's left of this family. Thomas straightened in his chair, some of his old authority returning. What's our first move? I smiled, pulling up a message on my phone. Actually, it's already taken care of. While we've been talking, copies of everything have been sent to the family lawyer, the board of Porter Real Estate, and every major shareholder. Patricia's probably seeing it all right now. As if on cue, my phone exploded with notifications. Messages from Madison, Emma, various family members, and finally, Patricia herself. You little bitch, you have no idea what you've done. I showed the message to Thomas and James. No, Patricia, I said, even though she couldn't hear me. I know exactly what I've done. I've taken back my family. The Porter family estate loomed before us, its elegant Georgian facade a monument to old money and carefully maintained appearances. Thomas, James, and I sat in my car, watching Patricia's Mercedes and her daughter's matching BMWs parked in a circular driveway. They're all here, Thomas said quietly. Patricia's called in reinforcements. I checked my phone, dozens of missed calls and messages from Patricia, Madison, and Emma. The last one from Madison caught my eye. Mom's going nuclear. You've ruined Everett King. Good, I replied, putting my phone away. Let's go ruin a bit more. We walked up the limestone steps, Thomas using his key to open the massive front door. The sound of angry voices echoed from his study, Patricia's cultured. Tones sharp with fury, Madison and Emma's younger voices adding to the chaos. How dare she? Patricia was saying as we approached. After everything we've done for her. You mean after everything you've stolen from her? James interrupted, stepping into the study first. The room fell silent. Patricia stood behind Thomas's desk, gripping a sheaf of papers, printouts of the evidence I'd distributed. Madison and Emma flanked her like guards, their matching designer outfits and identical expressions of disdain, making them look more like clones than stepsisters. Patricia recovered first, her Botoxed features attempting a smile. James, what an unpleasant surprise. Still running from your responsibilities, or have you found new ones to abandon? The only one running from responsibilities is you, Patricia. I said, moving to stand beside James. Those papers you're holding, they make for interesting reading, don't they? She slammed the papers down. Lies and forgeries. Is this your revenge for a few edited photos? Pathetic. A few edited photos? I laughed. Try 20 years of systematic emotional abuse, financial fraud, and family manipulation. The photos were just your final mistake, the one that made me look closer at everything else. Daddy, Madison stepped forward, her voice taking on the wheedling tone she'd perfected over the years. You can't believe these ridiculous accusations. Olivia's clearly lost her mind. Be quiet, Madison. Thomas cut her off, his voice carrying an authority I hadn't heard in years. For once in your life, just be quiet and listen. Emma gasped. Patricia's eyes narrowed. Thomas, dear, you're upset. Olivia has clearly manipulated you with these false documents. False. I pulled out my laptop. Let's review them together, shall we? The shell companies you created using Porter family money, the systematic transfer of assets into accounts controlled by you and your daughters, the offshore holdings, the hidden properties, the fabricated business expenses. With each point, I pulled up corresponding documents, projecting them onto the study's wall-mounted TV. Patricia's face grew paler as her carefully constructed schemes were exposed one by one. You didn't just try to erase me from family photos, I continued. You tried to erase the entire Porter fortune, piece by piece. How long before you plan to divorce father and take everything? That's ridiculous. Emma protested. Mom loves daddy. Mom loves money, I corrected, and power and control. Don't worry, Emma. I'm sure she loves you and Madison too, in her way, as long as you stay useful. Patricia moved around the desk, her composure cracking. You ungrateful little nobody. You think you can come in here with your fake documents and your dramatic accusations? They're not fake, Patricia. Thomas interrupted. I've had the family accounts reviewing everything since this morning. Every transfer, every hidden account, every lie. It's all true. Madison turned to Patricia, confusion breaking through her usual sneer. Mom, what's she talking about? What money? Nothing you need to worry about. Darling, Patricia said quickly, your father is just confused. Like he was confused about my real father? I asked quietly, or was that part of your plan too? Using the truth about James to push me out, knowing father's guilt would keep him quiet. The room went still. Madison and Emma looked between Thomas and James, realization slowly dawning on their faces. Wait, Emma said slowly, Uncle James is my biological father. I confirmed something Patricia discovered and used to her advantage, but she didn't know the whole story. Did you, Patricia? You didn't know father already knew that he'd been paying James to stay away to protect the family name. To protect me. Patricia's composure finally shattered. You think you're so clever, don't you? The poor, neglected stepdaughter finally getting her revenge. But you've forgotten something crucial, dear. I've spent 20 years building relationships with every person who matters in this family's world. One word from me will accomplish nothing. Thomas cut in. The board has already voted to freeze all company assets pending a full investigation. The family lawyer is drawing up divorce papers as we speak. It's over, Patricia. Daddy, no, Madison wailed. You can't do this to us. Us? I raised an eyebrow. You mean you didn't know about your mother's plans, the way she's been siphoming away your trust funds into accounts only she can access? Both girls turned to Patricia, who took an instinctive step back. Girls, don't listen to her. Everything I did was for you. Show them, I told Thomas. He pulled up 2 folders, handing one to each of his daughters. Your complete financial records. Patricia has been transferring money from your trust funds since you turned 21, using your signatures on documents you never read carefully. The houses you think you own? The investment accounts you think are growing? It's all under her control. Madison opened her folder with trembling hands, her face going pale as she read. Emma just stood there, tears streaming down her face. Mom? Emma's voice was small, childlike. Is this true? Patricia's mask finally crumbled completely. You ungrateful brats. After everything I've sacrificed, everything I've built, none of you deserve any of it. She lunged for her purse on the desk, but James was faster. He grabbed it, dumping the contents onto the desk, including a one-way ticket to the Cayman Islands dated for next week. Planning a trip, he asked mildly. You are going to leave us? Madison's voice cracked. After everything you said about family loyalty, Patricia's laugh was hollow. Loyalty? Look around you, Madison. There's no such thing as loyalty in this family. Only power and money, and I was smart enough to take both. No, Patricia, I said quietly. You were just smart enough to think you could take both. But real family loyalty? That's something else entirely, something you never understood. I turned to Madison and Emma, seeing them clearly for the first time in years, not as the spoiled, cruel stepsisters they'd become under Patricia's influence, but as victims of her manipulation too. The money can be recovered, I told them. Most of it, anyway. The accounts can be frozen, the properties reclaimed. But rebuilding this family? That's going to take more than just paperwork. Thomas put his hands on his daughter's shoulders. We'll figure it out. Together. All of us. Patricia's face contorted with rage. You think this is over? You have no idea what I'm capable of. Actually, James interrupted, we do. That's the problem, isn't it? We finally see exactly what you're capable of. The sound of car doors slamming came from outside. Through the study windows, we saw 2 police cars pulling up the driveway. The family lawyer suggested we file charges, Thomas said, his voice heavy with regret. Financial fraud, among other things. Patricia's eyes darted around the room like a trapped animal, finding no allies. Finally, they landed on me. You, she hissed. You did this. You destroyed everything. I met her gaze steadily. No, Patricia. You did this. I just exposed it. There's a difference. As the officers entered, I watched Patricia's perfect world crumble. Madison and Emma clung to each other, crying quietly. Thomas stood with his hand on James's shoulder, two brothers reunited by the very scandal that had once driven them apart. And me? I stood in the center of it all, finally visible, finally undeniable, finally home. 6 months after Patricia's arrest, I stood in front of the newly restored family portrait wall in the Porter estate. The empty spaces and edited photos had been replaced with the originals. Every memory, every moment restored to its rightful place. But there were new photos too, telling the story of a family piecing itself back together. "Still can't believe how much we missed," Madison said, coming to stand beside me. She had changed in the past few months, the polished society princess exterior giving way to something more authentic. All those years right in front of us and we never saw it. Patricia was good at making people see what she wanted them to see. I replied, studying a photo from last Christmas, the last one before everything changed. We all missed things we should have seen. The sound of laughter drifted in from the garden, where Emma was helping James and Thomas set up for our first real family dinner since Patricia's conviction. The trial had been mercifully quick, thanks to the mountain of evidence and Patricia's own arrogance. She had refused a plea deal, convinced until the end that she could talk her way out of everything. She couldn't. Did you visit her? I asked Madison. Patricia had been sentenced to 15 years for financial fraud, with a possibility of parole after 8. Madison shook her head. Emma tried once, said Mom just ranted about betrayal and revenge. Hasn't changed a bit. She turned to me, her eyes serious. I'm sorry, Olivia, for everything. We were horrible to you. You were children following your mother's lead, I said. But yes, you were pretty horrible. She laughed, surprised by my honesty. At least you're direct about it. That's one thing I've learned from you. The truth might hurt, but it's better than comfortable lies. The past 6 months had been a crash course in truth for all of us. After Patricia's arrest, the real work began, untangling the financial mess she created, recovering stolen assets, and rebuilding family relationships poisoned by decades of manipulation. Madison and Emma had struggled the most, facing not only the loss of their mother's influence, but also their own complicity in her schemes. The trust funds she had drained were gradually being restored, but money was the least of what they had lost. Mr. Harrison's here. Emma called from the garden. Our father's lawyer had become a regular presence in our lives, helping navigate both the legal aftermath of Patricia's crimes and the more complicated matter of family inheritance. I found him in Thomas's study, spreading documents across the desk while both my fathers looked on. The sight still struck me sometimes, Thomas and James standing together as brothers again, neither trying to deny or hide their complicated connection to me. Olivia. Mr. Harrison smiled. Perfect timing. We're just finalizing the restructuring of the family trust. After Patricia's conviction, Thomas had insisted on reorganizing everything. The Porter family assets would be divided equally among all 3 daughters, with provisions for future generations. More importantly, both Thomas and James would share responsibility for overseeing the family business. Everything looks in order, Mr. Harrison continued, but there is one detail we need to discuss. He pulled out a document. It's about the name. The name? I asked. Yes, given the unique circumstances of your parentage, you have the option to legally change your name. You could keep Porter, take your biological father's version of the name, or choose something else entirely. I felt both Thomas and James tense slightly beside me. This had been the elephant in the room for months, the question of names, identity, and belonging. I'm keeping Porter, I said firmly. I'm the daughter of both these men, in different but equally important ways. The name belongs to all of us. Thomas let out a breath I hadn't realized he was holding. James smiled, that familiar crooked grin that still startled me with its similarity to my own. Well then, Mr. Harrison gathered his papers. I believe we're finished here. The new trust documents will be registered tomorrow. The Porter family legacy is secure and perhaps stronger than ever. As he left, I heard more cars pulling up outside. The rest of the family was arriving for dinner, aunts, uncles, cousins, all of whom had needed time to process the revelations about Patricia, about James, about me. "We should head out," Thomas said, but I held up a hand. "Wait, there's something I need to say to both of you." I turned to face my fathers. For 20 years, this family was divided by secrets and lies.